We launch this dialogue in a reality that is thoroughly soaked in double standards. If you are viewing this video or listening to these words right now, it signifies that a vague, heavy sense of injustice is stirring within you. This sensation is intimately familiar to every man over 40 who has ever attempted to be brutally honest with himself. Society, the film industry, glossy women's magazines, and even your own wife have spent decades constructing a cage of guilt around you. You have been indoctrinated with a single, simple, yet devastating dogma. It goes like this: a man is a primitive, perpetually famished beast governed solely by lust. Whereas a woman is a supreme being, woven from light, spirituality, and a need for care, utterly alien to filthy instincts unless the harsh world forces her to descend to them. They tell us, you stare at other women because you are weak. You betray your family with every glance cast at a waitress's neckline. You are a slave to your own testosterone. And she? She is flint. She is the guardian of the hearth. If she gazes at another man, it is merely because she is seeking a kindred soul or admiring the aesthetics. This is the most convenient, the sweetest, and the most dangerous lie in the history of humankind. And today, we will not merely expose this myth. We will dismantle it atom by atom, annihilate it using the dry facts of evolutionary biology, endocrinology, and psychoanalysis. We will descend into those dark, damp basements of the human subconscious where family psychologists are usually too terrified to peek. We will rely on data that makes people feel uncomfortable. We will crack open archives of sexual behavior that are gathering dust in restricted institutes. We will dig up studies proving that female demons are far more cunning, inventive, and dangerous than male ones. If male nature is simple and linear, like the blow of a sledgehammer, then female nature is an intricate chess match where every move is dictated by millions of years of evolutionary selection. And in this match, you, men, often turn out to be not the players, but merely the pieces being moved from square to square by the invisible hands of instinct. But I must issue a grave warning. What you are about to hear may trigger rejection. You might feel the urge to switch off this video to preserve the illusion of a tranquil life. This is a normal defense mechanism. No one wants to know that his faithful companion, the mother of his children, transforms into an entirely different creature on specific days of the month, driven by an ancient call of the flesh that is more potent than any love or morality. However, if you remain, you will receive the keys to deciphering reality. You will cease blaming yourself for your nature and begin to perceive the true motives of everything occurring around you. We will locate that secret biological button, that safety fuse, the existence of which women themselves often do not suspect, but which governs their fidelity more rigidly than any religious prohibition. Therefore, if you are prepared for the harsh truth that liberates you from illusions, support this material right now. Hit the like button. This is a signal that we are speaking the same language, the language of facts, not emotions. And we begin our immersion into the abyss of human instincts. And while we adjust our optics, let's conduct a rapid experiment. Recall moments when you were in crowded places with your companion. A restaurant, a resort, a party. Recall, did you ever catch her gaze fixed on another man? Not just a casual look, but a scan. A gaze in which a predatory interest flared for a split second, instantly replaced by indifference the moment she noticed you were watching her. If your subconscious registered such moments of alarm, put a plus in the comments. If you are convinced of the absolute sainthood of your partner, put a minus. Let's see how honest our statistics truly are. Part 1, Visual Hunger. Anatomy of the Male Gaze. Let's commence our investigation with suspect number 1. With the male. What are we accused of most frequently? The wandering eye. The fact that our neck operates like a swivel, reacting to any attractive silhouette floating past. Women call this being a dog. Psychologists label it attention deficit. But biology holds its own very distinct and cynical opinion on this matter. It is not a vice. And it is not depravity. It is a built-in, non-disableable species survival algorithm that runs in the background, regardless of how deeply you love your wife. To comprehend the nature of this phenomenon, we must refer to the famous Coolidge effect. This term comes to us from biology and describes a phenomenon observed in all male mammals, from laboratory rats to corporate CEOs. Its essence is simple: the male brain is evolutionarily wired to respond to novelty. This is not a whim, it is a mechanism. Imagine the ancient world inhabited by our ancestors. Life expectancy was extremely low, dangers lurked at every turn. The male's task was not to find the one and live with her for 50 years holding hands. His biological mandate was to scatter his genetic material as broadly as possible. That is precisely why nature embedded a powerful novelty scanner within us. How does this function at the level of neurophysiology? When a man walks down the street and his peripheral vision snatches specific proportions, the waist-to-hip ratio index 0.7, considered the gold standard of fertility, smooth skin, the sheen of hair, the signal hits the amygdala faster than it reaches the cerebral cortex. It occurs in a fraction of a second. You haven't even had time to think what a beautiful woman, and your ancient brain has already dumped a microdose of dopamine. Pupils dilate to capture more light and information. Heart rate accelerates barely perceptibly, prepping the organism for potential action. Blood drains from internal organs and rushes to the muscles. This is an automatic assessment of the object's reproductive potential. It is critical to understand one crucial thing that women refuse to accept. In this moment, in the instant of this initial flash, a man is not cheating. There is no action plan in his head. He is not comparing this passerby's intellect with his wife's intellect. He is not thinking about how well she cooks or what kind of conversationalist she is. He does not see a personality in her at all. He sees a set of biological markers: healthy, fertile, available. It is a flash. A spark. Freud would call this a pure manifestation of the ID, our dark, animalistic core that demands immediate gratification. But the modern civilized man possesses a powerful superstructure over this ID, social control. And in 99% of cases, this impulse extinguishes as rapidly as it ignited. The man looked, the brain ticked the box object suitable, the system calmed down, and a minute later he has already forgotten this episode, choosing yogurt for dinner or discussing weekend plans with his wife. This gaze does not threaten the family. It is simply a radar check. It is like a security system scanning the perimeter. However, the tragedy lies in the fact that society interprets this reflex as a crime. The wife sees this look and senses a threat. It seems to her that in this moment you are choosing between her and the other one. But the truth is that male polygamy, in most cases, is a search for variety, not replacement. It is quantitative hunger. A man can madly love his wife, be ready to give his life for her, shield her from a bullet, work 3 jobs for her comfort. But simultaneously, his eyes will continue to operate like a radar. These are parallel processes that do not intersect in the male brain. Love lives in one department, scanning females lives in another. And here we approach the most unpleasant moment of truth. Male weakness for women is almost always opportunism. Let's speak plainly, without prudishness. If most men were presented with the opportunity to cheat with an incredibly attractive partner, and simultaneously possessed a 100% divine guarantee that no one would ever know, that there would be no consequences, no divorces, no diseases, would many refuse? Statistics from anonymous surveys reveal numbers that make sociologists blush. About 80% of men answer yes. Why? Because for a man, sex can be merely a mechanical discharge. Like sneezing. Like quenching thirst. In this act, there may not be a gram of emotion, not a drop of love, not a second of spiritual intimacy. A man is capable of detaching the body from the soul with surgical precision. It sounds cynical. It sounds crude. But such is our biological firmware. We are hunters of opportunity. Our weakness is a weakness for quick dopamine. But this weakness is predictable. It lies on the surface. A woman knows what to expect from a man. She knows that a short skirt or a deep neckline can throw off his aim. This is an open book. And that is precisely why male weakness is so easy to control and so easy to condemn. But let us now swing the spotlight in the opposite direction. Let us look at those who have been termed guardians of purity for centuries. Let us look at women. We are told that female sexuality is an ocean that warms up slowly. That a woman requires trust, emotional connection, and soul-deep conversations to feel attraction. That she does not react to beautiful visuals as primitively as we do. And partially, this is true. The female mechanism operates differently. It is not so blatant. It is not so rapid. But it is far, do you hear, far more destructive. If the male instinct is a match that flares brightly and burns out in a second, leaving no trace, then the female instinct is a smoldering peat bog deep underground. It can show no signs of life for years, hiding beneath layers of morality, upbringing, social norms, and fear of judgment. But when specific conditions align, when this peat bog ignites, it is impossible to halt this fire. It incinerates everything: family, obligations, attachments, logic. And the most terrifying part is that this fire is often provoked not by external factors, not by the husband's behavior or a handsome neighbor. It is provoked from within. By the woman's own biology. Psychoanalysts of the Jungian school speak of the concept of the shadow, that part of the personality we repress, which we fear to acknowledge as our own. In women, this shadow has been suppressed by millennia of patriarchy. They were forbidden to desire openly. They were forbidden to be initiators. They were taught to be good girls. And this spring has compressed to a critical limit. Modern science reveals a frightening trend: women, liberated from the oppression of social bands, demonstrate a thirst for sexual variety that baffles even seasoned researchers. We are arriving at the first intermediate conclusion of our investigation. Male weakness is visible. It is understandable. It is, if you will, safe in its predictability. Female weakness is concealed. It is camouflaged as a search for love, as an emotional crisis, as fatigue from domestic life. But when these masks are ripped off, an abyss is discovered beneath them. There are days in the life of every woman when the most faithful, modest spouse transforms into a biological robot executing a singular program: find the best male at any cost. And in these moments, logic shuts down completely. But to understand how this occurs, we must dissect the phenomenon of the biological storm, or, as scientists term it, the ovulatory shift. And believe me, what you learn next will compel you to look at your wife's calendar with an entirely different gaze. Biological storm and the change of master. You have surely noticed this, but most likely attributed it to female whims, to moods, or simply to successful makeup. There are days when your woman changes. It happens subtly, at the level of microsignals that your brain reads, but logic fails to process in time. Her scent changes, it becomes sweeter, thicker, more beckoning. The timbre of her voice changes, it drops half a tone lower, becomes slightly more husky and vibrating. Her gait changes, hips begin to move with greater amplitude, as if she is writing invisible symbols in the air with them. She might put on that lingerie that has been lying in the back drawer for 6 months, or suddenly paint her lips brighter than usual, just going to the store for milk. You ask, who did you dress up for? And she, looking in the mirror with a strange, wandering smile, sincerely answers, for myself. And you know what? In this moment, she is not lying. She truly is doing this not for you. And not even for her conscious self. She is doing this obeying a rigid imperative of nature, an order inscribed in her DNA millions of years ago. She is prepping herself for the hunt, even if she does not yet realize it herself. Science calls this by the dry term ovulatory shift. This is a brief period in the middle of the menstrual cycle, a window of fertility, when a woman's body is maximally primed for conception. And it is here that evolutionary psychology deals us, men, a resounding slap in the face, sobering and painful. Studies by scientists Stephen Gangestad and Randy Thornhill, confirmed by dozens of other tests across different cultures, revealed a shocking fact that demolishes the myth of female constancy. During this period, female preferences in men pivot 180 degrees. Let's break this down in detail. In ordinary times, in the so-called luteal phase or at the start of the cycle, a woman is a strategist. She seeks safety. She likes men with soft facial features, calm, predictable, reliable. Those who will bring the paycheck, who will not betray, who will be a good father. She needs a resource. She needs a protector. At this time, you, with your stability and care, are the ideal candidate. You are the king of her world. But when the biological storm hits, when estrogen levels reach their peak, all of this flies into the wastebasket. In these few days, which last from 48 to 72 hours, her ancient brain is not looking for a life partner. It is looking for a donor. A donor of superior genes. And the portrait of this donor differs radically from the portrait of a good husband. She needs a daring, aggressive, symmetrical, physically developed alpha male. One who dominates. One who reeks of danger, risk, and testosterone. One who takes, rather than asks. Psychoanalysis is ruthless here. In these days, the archetype of the mistress awakens, which mercilessly suppresses the archetype of the mother and the wife. In these days, a woman experiences not merely desire. It is not that lazy, calm maybe later tonight you are accustomed to in the marital bedroom. It is a physical, aching, sweet pain somewhere deep inside. It is a state resembling a fever. Body temperature rises slightly. The skin becomes hypersensitive, any touch of fabric against nipples or the inner thigh sends electrical shock straight to the brain. This is increased moisture that occurs spontaneously, from a single glance, from a single accidental whiff of male sweat in the gym. Visualize this state from the inside. Try to climb into her skin. She sits in a boring office, shuffling papers, or attends to household chores, boiling soup, ironing shirts. But her body is in a state of combat alert. Blood rushes to the pelvic organs, creating a sensation of heaviness and heat. Thoughts are scrambled. It is difficult for her to focus on reports. Her gaze becomes unfocused. She feels like a ticking time bomb. In such a state, any contact, even accidental, with a man who fits the description of a genetically gifted male triggers a reaction akin to a short circuit. It could be a new colleague with broad shoulders and an arrogant stare. It could be a trainer at the fitness club. It could simply be a random passerby who looked at her roughly. On ordinary days, she would be indignant at such insolence. On days of the storm, her knees go weak. She may love you with all her heart. She may value your family, your children, and the house you built. But in these critical hours, her organism considers you, perhaps, not genetically high quality enough for offspring if you, like most men over 40, have lost your former aggression and transformed into a cozy bear. And if an object appears nearby radiating the right pheromones, demonstrating strength and pressure, her resistance drops almost to zero. It is precisely in these days that the overwhelming majority of so-called accidental affairs occur. The ones about which women later, sobbing in a psychologist's office, say, "I don't know how it happened, it was like a fog, I wasn't myself." And you know what? It is not a lie. It is a biological truth. The hormonal cocktail released into the blood, estrogens, luteinizing hormone, and oxytocin, literally shuts down zones of the prefrontal cortex. The very zones responsible for critical thinking, for risk assessment, for morality and conscience. The fear of getting caught is dulled. The fear of losing the family seems distant and unreal. And the desire to obtain this genetic material, to feel this animal power inside herself, becomes an obsession, an itch that cannot be soothed by anything but action. She becomes a hostage to her body. A man, when he wants sex, usually understands what he wants and why. We have a goal. A woman in a biological storm often does not realize she is being steered by a program. She just needs it. She needs to relieve this tension that is tearing her apart from within. And herein lies the main danger for our audience, for men 40+. With age, our testosterone inevitably drops. We become calmer. We value comfort. We become ideal providers and friends. And her nature continues to demand a predator. And this monstrous dissonance between who you are, a caring husband, and who her body demands during the storm, a wild male, creates the ideal soil for tragedy. She doesn't want to hurt you. She doesn't want to destroy the family. She just wants to sate this biological hunger, which cannot be silenced by conversations, flowers, or expensive gifts. This is a hunger of the flesh, not the soul. And the question is merely who will be the one to satisfy it. Will you, knowing this schedule, be able to manifest that very animal side you hid long ago? Or will someone else do it, someone who just happens to be in the right place at the right time and isn't afraid to act brazenly? This is the truth about which family counselors shamefully remain silent. They teach you to talk and listen to each other. But it is impossible to negotiate with a hormonal storm. It cannot be persuaded to wait. It can only be endured or satisfied. And statistics are inexorable. It is during ovulation that women visit nightclubs most frequently, wear provocative clothing most frequently, and agree to sex with unfamiliar partners most frequently, even if a loving husband with dinner awaits them at home. Because a husband is stability. And a lover in these days is an evolutionary necessity. But if you think this is the most terrible secret of female nature, you are mistaken. This was merely physiology. A fever. But there is also cold calculation. A strategy that allows a woman to live with one man for years and bear children from another, while no one, not even she herself, senses the trick. We move to the most cynical part of our investigation, to the dual mating strategy. And what you learn next will force you to ponder whose facial features your children actually wear. Strategy of dual mating and the war of genes. We have reached the line where romantic lyricism ends and harsh, sometimes cruel evolutionary mathematics begins. It is convenient and pleasant for most men to believe that a woman is a naturally monogamous creature. We were fed a fairy tale about swans that choose a mate once and for life. This fairy tale is necessary for society so that units remain stable, mortgages get paid, and children grow up in complete families. But evolutionary biologists like Robin Baker and Mark Bellis, authors of the scandalous theory of sperm wars, have sobering statistics for you. And you won't like it. What is the essence of this cruel game nature has been playing with us for hundreds of thousands of years? Evolution has set the human female a difficult, almost unsolvable task. On one hand, for the survival of offspring, she critically needs resources. She needs food, protection from predators, a warm cave or an apartment in the city center, and stability. A specific type of man is ideally suited for this role. Let's call him the reliable partner. He is calm, predictable, faithful, often not very aggressive. He is an ideal father. He won't leave. He will bring the mammoth and fix the faucet. But, on the other hand, nature gives zero damn about comfort. Nature needs the survival of the species in the long term. It needs strong genes. It needs resistance to disease, physical might, the aggression of a winner. It needs alpha genes. And the tragedy lies in the fact that these two sets of qualities, good father and genetic Superman, are extremely rarely combined in one man. Reliable guys are rarely crazy dominants in bed, and daring rebels with high testosterone are rarely suitable for changing diapers and a stable life. And here female nature, through millions of years of natural selection, found a brilliant and absolutely cynical solution. Scientists called this the dual mating strategy. Its essence is simple and frightening: a woman consciously or, more often, unconsciously, forms a pair with a reliable partner to ensure domestic life and safety, but for conception or for biological satisfaction, which the body confuses with conception, she seeks an alpha on the side. This is not the moral downfall of a specific individual. This is the most ancient mechanism of risk diversification. Let's look truth in the eye. How does this look in reality, behind closed bedroom doors where you, husbands, are denied entry? This is perhaps the most painful moment for male pride, but we agreed to speak the truth. With a lawful husband who secures the rear, sex over time often turns into a marital duty. Think about this phrase. Duty. Not desire, not hunger, but obligation. It happens in the dark, under a warm blanket, on schedule, often in the same position. A woman at this moment can lie still, simulate mild pleasure, while in her head scrolling through the shopping list for tomorrow or thinking about kitchen renovations. Her body is here, performing a function, but her ancient instincts are fast asleep. She gives to preserve the stability of the union. This is payment for safety, a tax on marriage. But when a genetic lover enters the game, the very one who awakens her inner female, the picture changes radically. There is no place for shame, conventions, or a headache. Studies show that with partners possessing signs of high genetic compatibility, symmetrical face, deep voice, scent of high testosterone, women experience orgasm 3 times more often and faster. Why? Because the body doesn't lie. The woman's organism tries to literally suck this valuable genetic material into itself. The mechanism of so-called uterine suction activates. In such moments, the modest wife vanishes. She is ready for things the husband is afraid to even ask for in 20 years of marriage. Deep, animalistic guttural sounds, a back arched like a bow, skin drenched in sweat, total loss of control, readiness to experiment in dirty club toilets, in cars, in backyards. This is not debauchery in the sense of pornography. This is a biological imperative. She wants to take everything from this male, down to the last drop. She wants to imprint his strength within herself. And here arises the main question of our improvised court: who is actually loose? The man who, having drunk too much on a business trip, slept with someone in a sauna, but in the morning forgot even the partner's name and ran to buy a gift for his wife, tormented by conscience? Or the woman who can lead a double life for years, virtuously juggling 2 men, receiving money, status, and care from one, and animal ecstasy and genetic nourishment from the other? Male cheating is often stupid, open, and ridiculous. We are bad liars. We are betrayed by receipts, lipstick, smell, stupid behavior. Female cheating is a special operation of intelligence service caliber. It is a chess game where every move is calculated by a deep instinct of self-preservation. Women have evolutionarily learned to hide infidelity 10 times better than men. Why? Because the price of a mistake in ancient times was disproportionately higher. If a man was caught cheating, he might get hit on the head with a club, but his genes' children remained in the tribe. If a woman was caught, it meant banishment, death for her and her offspring, loss of protection. Nature taught them to be ideal spies. Therefore, if you are sitting now thinking, well, mine is definitely not like that, I would have noticed, she doesn't know how to lie, perhaps you simply underestimate the mastery of natural camouflage honed over millennia. She can look you in the eye with an honest gaze, cook your favorite borscht, stroke your hand, and sincerely smile, having just returned from another man's bed. And this does not make her a sociopath. It makes her a biologically efficient female successfully implementing the dual mating strategy. Scientists conducted anonymous DNA studies in maternity hospitals in the US and Europe. Figures vary, but some data is shocking. From 10 to 15% of children in the population are raised by fathers who do not even suspect that there isn't a drop of their blood in these children. This is the so-called cuckoo's egg upbringing. A man invests resources, time, life into someone else's genes, thinking he is continuing his lineage. This is the main biological fear of a man, and this is the main victory of the female strategy of dual mating. But do not rush to hate women for this. This is not the treachery of personality. This is the dictate of survival. Deep down, a woman often suffers from this split. She painfully wants her husband to be both a protector and a beast lover rolled into one. She dreams of seeking no one on the side. But if you have long turned into comfortable home slippers, do not be surprised that her nature begins to search for tough army boots elsewhere. And the worst thing is that to trigger this mechanism, it is not necessary to be a bad husband. You can be perfect. And it is your perfection, your sugary correctness that can become the trigger for seeking dirt. But physiology is only half the trouble. In the modern world, where we do not need to survive in caves, another hunger comes to the fore. Not genetic, but existential. We move to the fourth block of our investigation, to narcissistic infidelity. And here we will talk about why women cheat even when they have an ideal husband and a golden cage. The answer lies in one word: boredom. Boredom with themselves. Emotional hunger and narcissistic infidelity. We are accustomed to living in the paradigm of the old school. We were taught a simple formula: happy wives do not cheat. If a woman went astray, it means the husband is to blame. It means he drank, beat her, paid no attention, earned little, or was bad in bed. Society always looks for the cause in the deficit of something in the marriage. But modern psychology, and in particular the revolutionary works of human relationship researchers, reveal a completely new, frightening phenomenon of the 21st century. Today, women cheat en masse not because they want to leave their husbands. They cheat because they want to leave themselves. From that tired, predictable version of themselves they became in marriage. Let's paint a portrait of this woman. She is 35, 40, or 45 years old. On the surface, she has everything like normal people, and even better. A spacious apartment or house, an attentive, non-drinking husband, healthy children, a stable job. But inside this golden cage, she feels like she is slowly dying. She has turned into a set of functions. She is mom, checking homework and taking kids to clubs. She is wife, ensuring shirts are ironed and the fridge is full. She is daughter, who must call her parents. She is a responsible employee. In this endless list of roles and duties, she lost the main thing, the woman. That very female who once drove men crazy with a single look, who was daring, free, and desirable. She looks in the mirror and sees a tired face, first wrinkles, extinguished eyes. She feels dead inside. Her libido sleeps a deep sleep not because the husband has become unattractive, but because she herself has become boring, understandable, and safe to herself. She lacks air. She lacks the feeling of life. And suddenly he appears. It could be anyone. A new colleague, an old acquaintance from social networks, a driving instructor, or a random fellow traveler on a business trip. It is not important who he is, but how he looks at her. He does not know her as a mother of 2 children. He does not know that her back hurts, that the mortgage needs to be paid, or that she is afraid of old age. He sees only a woman in her. He looks at her with that very hungry, predatory gaze we talked about at the very beginning. He sees in her an object of desire, a mystery, a sexual target. And this look acts on her like a powerful defibrillator for a stopped heart. It is an instant action drug. She feels alive again. She feels like the main character of her movie again, not a supporting character in the family's life. This is called narcissistic infidelity. She falls in love not with the lover. She falls in love with her reflection in his eyes. She falls in love with that young, sexy, dangerous version of herself that this man awakened. In this state, a woman is capable of actions that boggle the mind. Dopamine hits the head so hard that all moral barriers she built for decades collapse. She starts living from message to message. The vibration of the phone in her purse causes a rush of adrenaline and a hot wave in the lower abdomen, which she hasn't felt with her husband for 10, or even 15 years. The whole world narrows down to the smartphone screen and rare meetings. And here lies the fundamental difference of weakness. A man is weak for the availability of the body. We need physical penetration, release. A woman is weak for the availability of emotions and confirmation of her power. She needs not just penetration. She needs admiration. She needs to be wanted to the point of trembling. And for the sake of this feeling I've still got it, for the sake of this breath of fresh air, she is ready to put everything at stake: family well-being, children's psyche, reputation, financial stability. In moments of such infatuation, a woman, speaking the language of psychoanalysis, completely turns off the superego. She begins to rationalize her betrayal: I deserve a piece of happiness, I'm not doing anyone harm, I just feel like a woman again. You only live once, and it's passing by. The piquancy and tragedy of the situation is that sex in such relationships becomes transcendently, cosmically sensual. Not because of the partner's technique, the lover may be objectively worse than the husband in bed. But because of the context. Forbidden fruit, mystery, fear of being caught, novelty, all this enhances excitement tenfold. Adrenaline mixes with oxytocin, creating a chemical cocktail that literally blows the roof off. She comes home, kisses her husband, cooks dinner, asks how the day went, but with her thoughts, soul, and body she is still there, in the car, in a dark parking lot, or in a cheap hotel room, where an hour ago she was not Pete's mom, but a goddess of debauchery permitted everything. It is difficult, almost impossible for a man to understand this logic. We are creatures of facts. We think, what was she missing? I did everything. I didn't drink, brought money. But she didn't miss your actions. She missed the feeling of her own significance as a sexual object, separate from everyday life. And this weakness for emotional strokes makes female virtue vulnerable even in the most, seemingly, strong, ideal, Instagram marriages. While you are building a fortress, strengthening walls, and digging moats, she can open the gates to the enemy just because he sang her a serenade about how beautiful she is in this moonlight, and made her feel 18 again. But if emotional hunger is an old story, known since the time of Madame Bovary, then in recent years a new factor has appeared. A factor our fathers and grandfathers did not have. A factor that turned female infidelity from a rare exception into a hidden epidemic. We are talking about technology. About digital temptation that is always at hand. Digital era and the illusion of infinite choice. Let's be honest, before, cheating on a husband was difficult. It required logistics of a military operation level. You had to come up with an alibi, find a phone booth to call, physically go somewhere, dress up, risk being seen by neighbors. The price of cheating was high, and the entry threshold was difficult. Laziness and fear often guarded female fidelity better than morality. But today, in the 21st century, hell fits in the palm of your hand. The smartphone has become the most powerful catalyst for female infidelity in human history. And here, in the digital world, the gap between a man and a woman becomes simply huge. Look at how this works for a man. To find a partner for sex through dating apps or social networks, the average man, not a star and not a millionaire, needs to do a colossal amount of work. You need to take professional photos, write hundreds of messages, receive dozens of ignores and rejections, spend money on premium accounts, invite on a date, pay for dinner. This is work. This is a hunt that requires time, money, and high self-esteem to endure rejections. The efficiency of this hunt is extremely low. For a woman, everything is different. Fundamentally different. She doesn't need to do anything. It is enough for her to simply be. It is enough for her to register on a dating site or just open her page on a social network. Even without a photo of her face, just putting a picture of a beautiful silhouette or a flower on the avatar, in an hour she will receive 50 messages. 50 men of varying degrees of adequacy, wealth, and physical attractiveness will write to her, "Hi, beauty, let's meet, I want you." This is not a hunt. This is food delivery to your home. This is a buffet where all dishes are free and jump into your mouth themselves. What is the drama and danger for the family here? In that social networks and dating apps create a dangerous illusion for a married woman, the illusion of infinite choice and her own supervalue. Imagine, she is sitting in the kitchen, in an old robe, with unwashed hair, tired of children's whims and household chores. Opposite sits the husband, buried in the TV, chewing a cutlet, paying no attention to her. She is bored. She is sad. She opens the phone, and instantly falls into another dimension. In this digital looking glass, she is a queen. There they offer her trips to the Maldives, even if it's a lie. This is a powerful dopamine needle. She receives validation, confirmation of her female power, without getting up from the chair. At first, she may not even meet them physically. She just flirts. She plays. But this digital flirtation, this virtual sex, the exchange of ambiguous messages and photos from the bathroom while the husband sleeps in the next room, is already the beginning of the end. It blurs the boundaries of what is permitted. Her mental energy, her sexuality flow from the family into the smartphone. She begins to compare her real, earthly, tired, sometimes grumpy man with these virtual alphas who are ideal in words, generous, and always ready to listen to her whining. And the comparison will always, absolutely always be not in your favor. Because reality always loses to fantasy. A living person with flaws loses to an ideal image on the screen. Psychologists call this the candy store syndrome. A woman begins to despise her real life, believing that she deserves more, because the market offers her hundreds of options. And this temptation is with her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In line at the store, in the toilet, at a boring meeting, at a parent-teacher conference. Temptation always lies in her right pocket. To resist it, you need not once a year, as before, but every free minute. Water wears away the stone. And one day, in a moment of a quarrel with her husband, under the influence of alcohol or simply out of boredom, the line between virtual and real is erased. She simply answers yes to one of 100 candidates. She doesn't need to look for anything, she doesn't need to strain herself. She just needs to open the door. This ease of falling, this accessibility of sin makes female fidelity in the modern world a real feat, about which men often do not even think, considering it taken for granted. But statistics are inexorable. Sites for married people looking for connections on the side record explosive growth precisely in the female audience. They are looking there for what is not at home, emotions, novelty, and confirmation that they are still desirable. And the smartphone obligingly provides this for a couple of clicks. We analyzed anatomy, hormones, psychology, and technology. The picture is frightening. But the puzzle will be incomplete without the last, most important detail. We must deliver the final verdict and, finally, open that very secret fuse, that biological button that makes female infidelity irreversible. This is the knowledge that can save your marriage or help you survive its collapse with a cool head. We are approaching the finale. Final verdict and the secret fuse. We have traveled a long and dark path through the labyrinths of human nature. We dismantled male visual hunger, which flares up like a match. We dissected female hormonal storms that blow the roof off more reliably than any alcohol. We looked into the cynical mathematics of dual mating and into the abyss of digital temptation. It is time to sum up and deliver a verdict to this biological court. Who is the main animal in the couple? Whose weakness is more fatal? Let's discard emotions and look at the bottom line. A man is weak on impulse. Our nature is a sprint. Saw, wanted, conquered or didn't conquer, cooled down. Our cheating, for all its dirt and offensiveness to the partner, often does not affect the deep layers of the psyche. A man can cheat with his body, but sincerely, to the depths of his soul, believe that he has not betrayed. Because his heart, his resources, his responsibility to the clan and his soul remained at home. It sounds like an excuse, but it is a biological fact. Men know how to separate physiology and love with surgical precision. For us, these are different rooms in the brain, between which there is often no door. With a woman, everything is different. Her nature is a marathon. She harnesses slowly, she resists for a long time, but if she goes, it is impossible to stop this train. Her cheating is almost always total. If a woman lets another man into her body, she, as a rule, has already let him into her head and into her heart. For a woman, sex is an act of acceptance. And if she accepts someone else's genes, it means that on a deep, unconscious level she has already recognized her permanent partner as written-off material, an error of evolution. This is much scarier than casual sex on a business trip. This is a verdict on male viability, which is not subject to appeal. And now, the main intrigue. That very secret, that very biological button that controls a woman and about which psychologists are silent. Scientists call this the mechanism of hypergamic rejection. But we will call it simpler and harsher, the fuse against the weak. What is the essence of this cruel mechanism? Nature has sewn a ruthless algorithm into the female limbic brain. A woman is physically, hormonally capable of experiencing true attraction only to that man whom she considers stronger than herself. Stronger morally, stronger in spirit, more resourceful, more dangerous. To someone she fears a little in a good sense and whom she respects immensely. As soon as a man bends. As soon as he becomes dependent, tearful, predictable, too good, ingratiating and comfortable, this fuse goes off in the woman. It happens not by her will. It is not her decision to stop loving you. It is pure physiology. Everything inside her literally dries up. She looks at such a weak husband, kind, caring, who brings slippers in his teeth, and her body blocks any possibility of arousal. She may respect him as a person. She may pity him as a brother or as a child. But as a female, she dies for him. For her, sex with such a bent man becomes unnatural, almost incestuous. She feels physical disgust that she herself cannot explain. And in this moment, when the fuse has gone off, when she stops seeing a leader in you, she becomes maximally, fatally vulnerable to any external alpha. Anyone who shows strength. Anyone who doesn't ask for permission, but takes her roughly. Anyone who demonstrates dominance will instantly crack her defense. Why? Because her nature screams with a siren, urgently look for strong genes. Your male has degraded. Your offspring is in danger. That is why attempts to return female passion with gifts, persuasion, whining, and good behavior never work. Remember this forever, they only make it worse. Trying to be good, you feed her instinct of rejection with your weakness. You confirm that you are a follower. The only way to turn off this fuse and restart the system is to become who you were when she chose you. Dangerous. Independent. Strong. One who has his own interests. One who can leave and survive without her. Only the fear of loss and the feeling of the partner's strength turn on the female libido again. A woman wants to belong to a winner, not a servant. So who is ultimately weaker? The one who has fewer breaks in a critical moment. Statistics show, men cheat more often in quantity because we are opportunists, but female infidelity is growing faster, and it is much more destructive, deep, and thought out. A man can hit the brake because he is afraid of losing what he loves. A woman whose biological storm has turned on or whose fuse against weakness has worked often discovers that she simply has no brakes. She is carried by a stream that is stronger than herself. We analyzed biology. We opened the mechanisms. But life is more complicated than any test tubes and theories. Men, now a question for you, for those who have lived life and seen a lot. What is scarier for you? When she cheats with her body out of stupidity and momentary weakness? Or when she has been faithful to you physically for years, cooks dinner and washes socks, but in her thoughts, in her fantasies, she has long been with another, because for her you have become just a comfortable neighbor? Write your honest, male opinion in the comments. I will pin the deepest and toughest answer at the top, because this experience is priceless for the young who are just entering this game called marriage. Take care of yourself, preserve your strength, and do not let nature destroy what you have built for years.